Well, we think we're live in this program. We'll find out here in a moment. We didn't have any audio during the intro to the show, but I got a thumbs up that says we do. We are not, however, live streaming on Facebook. I am considering abandoning Facebook altogether. The platform is insane, and I don't do insane well. Uh, I now have three flags in the last week, less than a week, half a week, all of which have to do with either cybersecurity or altering media when 100% of the issues were in the feed that they provided. So they provided two images that evidently had content in them that violated their cybersecurity rules, but they know that I did not alter them. I simply commented on them. They served them up. And this last one they said was altered media. I didn't alter the media. They know I didn't alter the media. I simply commented on it. You can't function in an environment that's insane. I'm not going to expose Yahweh's message to an environment that is insane. You know, it's frustrating also on X because on X, they are so gross in what they will allow. Matter of fact, the same thing is true with Facebook. I republished 4 posts today on Facebook that were absolutely repulsive. People condemning Israel, calling Jews all sorts of horrible names, and Facebook allows it. Hatred towards Israel, no problem. Served it up. Not only serves up my feed, but these are promoted because I don't follow these individuals. It's Facebook who is distributing them, promoting them. And it's horrible, anti-Semitic, hateful rhetoric. And it's not only allowed, it's encouraged. What kind of an environment is that? I mean, it's just repulsive. You feel like you need a shower every time you go in. And, you know, X is the home of the most repulsive and hateful anti-Semites in the world. Candace Owens, that's where she thrives. Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, they're all there, one after another. And I could list 100 names. And the presentations that are so vicious towards Jews and towards Israel. And then all of the utter trash that is thrown out about Trump as he is destroying the world. And it's all allowed. No problem. Big reach. Oh boy, you want to spew lies. X is your account. Heck, even the owner does. Tell the truth? No. They'll make sure that your reach is nothing. Makes it an echo chamber for friends and family. It's not worth it. And so I am this close to saying I'm not going to post again on Facebook or on X. Now, doesn't make YouTube good. Well, in terms of these Yahweh vlogs, the overwhelming preponderance are viewed on YouTube. The YouTube numbers are actually extraordinary considering how unpopular our message is, how unpopular Yahweh has always been, how the religious and the political and the conspiratorial and the anti-Semitic have been vehemently opposed to God, and how vile they are on those platforms. It's truly amazing that we have the reach and frequency and audience that we do. So we will continue to provide video content for them, although just less of it, because I think that we're providing so much that it's creating a too much content for the size of the audience, so that there aren't sufficient reactions and response and engagement with each hour of Yahweh blog. So I will be dealing with that as well. I had a long conversation with Joe. I don't know how many of you have been to the website recently, but it is spectacular. For example, there's a new feature on the Dead Sea Scrolls that is truly amazing. Not only did Joe integrate the two most important aspects of studying the Dead Sea Scrolls, he made the whole process beyond that integrated. He has taken one of the presentations that shows where there is confirmation questions on the Dead Sea Scrolls, where there is content in the Dead Sea Scrolls that's not in the Masoretic text, and then context that is in the Masoretic text that is not in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And he's highlighted them by color, by verse, by chapter and verse. And he's even made it possible, if you click on that orange and the red squares that designate which things are what, you can search an entire chapter of any book and the Torah, prophets, and Psalms just for the disparities, just for the differences between and the discrepancies between the Masoretic text and the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is how I've always used the Dead Sea Scrolls Bible and other tools when writing Yahweh. He has now automated that process. It brings up the differences, which is the places where you need to make the corrections. And then he went one step further. He integrated, we found a transcript, actually, the Dead Sea Scrolls. I had to go back to the pictures of them. No one has ever done a transcript. So if there was a difference, I would look at the word that they translated it into and reverse engineer that back into Hebrew. But he's actually found somebody that did a transcription of it. And we've set the transcription of the Dead Sea Scrolls where it has different colors for what was in a scroll versus what was supplied. And I have, been translating Hebrew so long, I know what those words mean, but the average person using our site's not going to know what they mean. So what we're doing now is taking these words that are they're fully conjugated. They have pronouns and prepositions and stems, for example, all integrated in the words. You can't copy and paste them in even the Hebrew spelling into a place like Strong's, but an AI can translate them. And we're going to even allow you to be able to click on any one of those Hebrew words in its fully conjugated form and have a definition of it. What an unbelievably powerful study tool. And Joe has created this just out of a discussion that we had on, he wanted to know how I went about studying. Because what we did is we added it to the translation presentation, where, you have now entire chapters presented in succession with every rendering of every verse, one after another, with the link to the context from which it was removed, so that you can see the commentary on it as well in all of those various places. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. And when Perry finishes his transition from the apostrophes indicating an aleph or an ain to actually designating them by a superscript of the original version of the aleph to the ain, we'll have a linkable glossary to the translations. Another wonderful tool. And the glossary now is up and fully functional. It has all of Kirk's definitions, and soon we'll add also definitions from the books themselves, and you'll have both. It's just amazing as a study tool. The timeline, which we'll flesh out with more video. And so, and we also have the full music index, which is beautiful. The what they call promos, but I would call invitations to be part of this journey to know Yahweh. Those beautiful video presentations, animated presentations that are usually in the minute range. They're just beautifully done, musically, graphically, lyrically. We're going to have a whole library of them placed on the site. It's one of the things we're rounding up at this point. But the only thing that keeps the website itself from being our primary home is interaction. For example, now we have a Facebook page that I use that no one goes to. It's just a Facebook page for the purpose of feeding a page called the blog on the website. And it takes it, whatever I present on that one page, and it presents it there. It kind of is done a little bit awkward, and that it does kind of one day at a time, and it presents my commentary before it shows some of the pictures, and sometimes they have to feed in over time. And we'll have to see how that develops, particularly with me walking away from Facebook, at least hugely diminishing the time that I spend there, which is kind of a shame because it's been a wonderful forum for communication between family. But it just can't function there. It's essentially impossible. Or we're just going to have to turn it into nothing but this is what Yahweh says, and not talk about the world. But that would be very difficult in this environment because it's the world that we have to talk about to open up the subject of Yahweh. But anyway, what we want to do is to see if we can make those posts interactive as they would be in a social media channel where I can write something, show a picture and our short video, and then you all can comment on it and comment among each other on it and add to it and discuss what your thoughts are on a subject, whether it's a fun subject or something very serious about Yahweh's testimony or something in the news. So if we can develop that, then there really is no need for any social media platform other than a video streaming service. And we'll use YouTube for as long as that's possible, although YouTube is tough. Not so much on their thought police anymore because we don't post anything on Islam there. They would be opposed to the truth about Islam. But because of the fact that their verification process and how they go about verifying sites is just a nightmare to work with. And there's zero customer service. It's just like Facebook, literally, and X. There is no customer service. So you are managed by a machine. It's not very pleasant. But we will continue to post there. And if worst gets to worst, we'll post on a place that virtually no one goes, like Rumble, and we'll pull in everything that we do in terms of these vlogs into the website from a place like Rumble, where there aren't thought police, there aren't countless restrictions, and we'll build that out. And after building that out, then we'll be in a position to show it on the website. What I'm trying to tell you is the website is going to be our home. And what I'm looking to do is to create the kind of interactive environment that's was so enjoyable on Facebook before there was the mass condemning of covenant members. Now, of course, there is the possibility that all of this is nefarious because we have seen messages back and forth from the Mother Goddess cult that says that they are deliberately trying to mess with our social media and to hamper it and to screw with the algorithms and to disparage us and attack us on social media. They've admitted to doing so. Should they be doing so? Should this be their work? Then the price they will pay with their souls will be egregious. So that is also a possibility, but it doesn't really matter. If Facebook is subject to that sort of thing, then they can have it. So anyway, that's the process. Is I want to cultivate a vastly better environment on the website. Now, if you go back, just a year and a half ago, that's really all we had. We had the Yada Yada Radio, which was just audio that had a chat room in it. People got together once a week and could chat in Yada Yada Radio, which is vastly inferior to the show we do now. That so many people comment on YouTube. In fact, about 85% of the interaction during the show is on YouTube. That what we had was only that and our website. And the website had 1/10 to offer what the current website does. So the thought is that we will develop the website. We're actually working now with Claude to create an answer capability for the website, whereby you have a question, you can pose it through the AI, and it will analyze the translations, it'll analyze the conclusions, it will pull together the data on the website and seek to answer your questions in an informed and rational way, guided by the prompts that it's provided. Be another nice feature, but that's what I'm leaning towards, because I don't do insane well. And what I'm finding is insane. It's reprehensible. I'm disgusted with the whole lot, particularly when you read and you see how much is just appalling that is presented on those sites, that is actually promoted by those sites, and that their most popular posters, most popular contributors are the most egregious individuals. So it's anyway, that's our future. We have been collecting data on all of the social media channels, and we will deal with it. The fact is that we have the growth in social media over the past year with a message that is anti-Islam, anti-Christianity, anti-MAGA, anti-Marxist, anti-conspiratorial, anti-Judaism, pro-Israel, which is the least popular country in the world by a long margin, and pro-Yahweh, that is a message that has never been popular. You put all that together, and the audience that we have is surprisingly large and loyal and pays attention and listens and comments, and so overall, in terms of the reach of the Yahweh vlog, I'm exceedingly optimistic and pleased. It is much better than what I would have expected. And initially the response on some of the social media sites was, well, this is tolerable, and now it's not. So I don't have any specific instructions from God as to where we have to be and where we should not be. And all I have is that I want you to do this vlog, and we're doing the vlog, and it's being posted and received well, particularly on YouTube. And we'll see how it develops on other channels. But at this point, we're fairly anemic on TikTok and on Patron, and currently on Rumble and on Telegram and on others. There are lots of places where our number of subscribers is quite small, but there's lots of places where, well, it has, for years, it just went nowhere. And then we had a team come together and start to manage these things, and they have exploded favorably. So which is going to narrow our outreach a bit in this. And if you out there, you have some suggestions, I'm all ears. I'm happy to hear from you. I am not, however, the type that is going to try to negotiate with Facebook or X to create a better environment. It's just not worth my attention. So I'm not going to do that. But I'm happy to hear otherwise from you as to what you think we should do and how we go about conveying this message. It is an interesting situation, of course, in terms of outreach, and that I really don't feel compelled to do more than we're doing. Time is short. The likelihood that somebody's going to come up to speed and recognize what we're saying, identify with it, act upon it, educate themselves by reading these books, and demonstrating to Yahweh by their response and by their contribution to his family that they can be trusted and should be allowed into one of the harvests and live for him, with him forevermore, is so now infinitesimally small. There just isn't the time to do all of that. That's why there's 1,000 years later, during the celebration of Sukkah, as we are brought back into the garden and have the opportunity to bring people up to speed. So I just don't see it as being something that's going to make all that much difference. We'll use these other sites for a singular purpose, which is to point to the website. And the website will be our legacy. And then, of course, when we return, we won't need the social media. So that's where we are. All right. So where I left off on this, we're still in the final word picture, even though now we're covering the greatest song ever written, the 89th Mizmor. This is a song that begins fairly evenly talking about the co-author of it, who is Ethan Ha-Ezraki, and what his background is, why he came to be writing this. Goes into sharing what Ethan has come to know about Yahweh over the millennia that he has known him and spent time with him. Then there is a declarative statement regarding Dowd being the one through whom Yahweh established the covenant, and that Dowd is Yahweh's chosen one and the one through whom Yahweh works. Following that, we turn to a number of statements that help explain the working relationship that Ethan in his various lives has with Dowd in his various lives, and how they work together, as well as how, in the last one we considered, how, according to God, Ethan comes back in another life as a strong Zeroah in the last days, with the purpose of agitating the religious while calming the situation around the Temple Mount, and ultimately defeating Rahab, this integration of man and devil, known today as Donald Trump. And so that's what we have just come out of. It was one of the most breathtaking presentations of prophecy ever. And yet it's something that heretofore no one has ever even pondered. So we're going to have a statement or two, again in Ethan's voice, as he speaks of what he knows of Yahweh. And then we're going to go through some 25, 30 statements in a row that are all in Yahweh's voice, where Ethan's role is just to record what God says. And what he has to say is just absolutely overwhelming in favor of his son, completely obliterating Judaism and Christianity, while extolling the virtues of Dowd. And then there will come to a section of about 10 statements that condemn the religious world for depriving Dowd of what he's due, of not recognizing that he is not only the Savior and the Son of God, but also the returning King and the one who fulfilled Pesach Matzon B'Kodem, our Savior. So the man who would come to love Dowd more than anyone on earth came to love Yahweh all the more. And as a result, he realized that God had to recuse. To recuse. To recuse is an interesting term. It's not used typically outside of a legal setting, but perhaps it's appropriate here. But God recused himself from the ongoing discussions with his son, trying to resolve his son's departure from him, separation from him, antagonism towards him. And the reason God recused himself is that Dowd became so belligerent, he started to represent the belligerence of Israel. And it's just as God says that it wasn't appropriate for him to talk directly to Israel anymore, and that he would talk through men of his choosing. He did the same thing with Dowd. He recused himself, took a step back, and only spoke to Dowd through people of his choosing. Nathan was one of them. Joab has a general has an amazing speech at one point. And then we read favorably of the Amma and of her Baal, her husband. And then this man, Ethan Ha-Ezraki. It probably bears noting, and I'm going to bring this up because I got another just ridiculously absurd letter from the Mother Goddess cult. And in addition, just to line all over themselves, their big issue was that they wanted to condemn me because of the references to Baal. And what it shows, and I think it's necessary for you to recognize, since this is how we transitioned into the 89th Mizmor yet again, is that there are lots of terms that Yahweh uses that Satan misappropriates that are still very good terms. As my good friend Dr. Jeff mentioned the other day, El, it's the title God uses to describe himself. It's his role as God. Do you know the name of the god of the Canaanites? El. Asherah is the goddess that God routinely condemns. The prophets of Asherah, the ones that Elia went after. It's true, isn't it? One of the 12 tribes, however, is named Asher. When Leah, through a surrogate, gave birth to Asher, what did she say? That she would always be known as the most blessed and beneficial of women. She would be Asher. How can that term be negative if one of the 12 children of Israel are named Asher? If Leah, the mother of Yahudah, claims that she will be forever remembered as Asher. Do you know the preposition and verb and noun, because it's all of those things, that is used more in descriptions about God and his relationships to his people than any other? It's Asher. I typically render it as to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, because when you consider all of the 5 or 6, 7 meanings of Asher and all of the lexicons, it means all of those things. It's a benefit, it's a joy. It speaks of a relationship. So Asher can't be a bad term, can it? So when the Amma that is brought to be in by Yahweh to serve as Dowd's surrogate mother, whom Dowd praises Yahweh for thanks him for bringing this Amma into his life. Calls him your Amma that you brought into my life, literally saving me from myself. Asher is good, isn't it? Even though there is a goddess named Asherah. Same thing is true with Baal. Baal's the Hebrew word for Lord. Yes, it's also the Hebrew word for husband. It is used in the last mashal, word picture, which is an exceedingly important piece of divinely inspired literature. 3 times Baal is used, and all 3 times exceedingly favorably. That the mission with the surrogate mother of Dode, who was the first to try to sober her son up and to get him to recognize who he was so that he would listen to the message that was then brought by her husband. And he is referred to as Baal 3 times. What is the likelihood that Baal is a negative in that context? 0. And yet they would say that if you apply the term Baal to yourself, then you're a false god, false prophet. No. That would mean that the last Mizmor, or the last Mashal, was inspired by the devil. Do you want to go there? Or do you want to recognize that it is a term with the dark and the light side? And Yahweh was using it in this context, in the context that we're continuing to discuss, how he intervened to resolve his issue with his son, because all of humanity hung on it. This resolution. Why did he refer to this man favorably that was the surrogate mother, his husband, so favorably as Baal? I bring this up because of the fact that the people that wrote this, well, okay, sure, they're catering to a psychopath. They've been played. But they were obnoxious from the beginning. Never been anything other than obnoxious. But nonetheless, they produced their little translation of a passage in Yirmiyah 23 and completely mangled it, saying that to speak in the name of Baal is to erase Yahweh's name, when in fact we have done just the opposite. Like, no one has been more aggressive in restoring Yahweh's name than I have been. Can't apply to me, but yet they would apply it to me. That's just how ignorant they are. They listen to these programs and it's boing. It's just pathetic. And if somebody has been exposed to this information and knows Yahweh's name, for example, and now won't even write it. So back to Yod He Wah He, after the failed experiment of Yahweh, or Yahweh, whatever it was that they tried to write to get mommy and daddy goddess into the name. People that should know better, after all this time, don't know better. How in the world are you going to take somebody that knows nothing and invite them in to explore what we have learned and to process it and act upon it and then engage in the time we have remaining? Yeah. Very unlikely. So we'll continue to pursue a shabuw'ah harvest that is lean in numbers, but great in quality. So anyway, in this story, it became obvious that the only way to bring the man back to God, bring their relationship back together so they were back on speaking terms, was to integrate God's most trusted soul and his wife into the story, which is what God did. So as the Zeroah, he would not only rid the world of Rahab, such that Yahweh would be able to enjoy his return back to earth, and the men he conceived, well, he would also restore his relationship with his beloved son. Obviously, we've been there and done that. So the spiritual realm, it reads, of the heavens is yours. The material realm, the world, and all that is in it are also yours. You yourself laid the foundation for them and established them. Mizmor 89:11. Yeah, it's an interesting thing that those who speak against It's really against religion, although they think they're speaking against God. Put restrictions on God that you can't put on him, in the sense of, well, men taking other men's and women's lives without protecting others, that's for whatever reason, that like Trump decides I want to go bomb Iran. That's wrong. If God says, you're a liability, you're harming even the opportunity that anyone's going to come to know me and engage in a relationship and therefore receive the benefits that I have to offer, and you yourself are never going to do so, and you're limiting others so that you're a net liability. For God, who created the universe, this planet, and life, to truncate that life, that was not a bad thing. It's a positive thing. And so by saying, listen, heavens are yours, the universe is yours, this world that we live on, this planet, it's yours as well. So God is in a position where he can be merciful and truncate a life. They would not have had that life had it not been for them. Whatever they got was obviously more than they deserved. It's yours. God laid the foundation for them. He is at liberty to do with it as he wishes. And if none of us prove worthy, he just ends the experiment. It's over. It's his. There's no obligation to us beyond he's made a series of promises, but look at how infrequently they have been honored versus ignored, rejected, and demeaned. Something to consider. This next statement is, the north where treasures are hidden and the south at your right side, you yourself have created them. Tabor, the broken, and Tremon, the band, will shout for joy in your name. Mizmor, Psalm 89, 11 and 12. So 10 days after Rahab falls on taruw'ah, as a direct result of this intervention that will take place to take him out on taruw'ah, on Kippurim, we'll arrive with Dode to celebrate the reconciliation of the relationship with Yisrael. By Sukkah, the formerly broken and banned will shout for joy. And boy, will they have been broken and banned by that time. It's anti-Semitism is literally celebrated in social media. This is the summation of man's story. For the past 6,000 years, civilizations, all through the integration of religion, militarism, and the caste system, and often in league with Rahab, have been oppressive, crushing, controlling. And while it's going to get worse before it gets better, our liberation is nigh. No longer crippled or accursed, we will re-enter Eden with Dode as our Savior and as our King. With the Tanim gone, Satan gone, life will become happily ever after. Shamayim and Eretz will be as one. 4 layers of separation, the enormity of the gap between 3 and 7 dimensions will gradually dissolve for one person and then another as we become ever more like our God. And in fact, just like Ethan Ha-Ezraki, so will it be for every child of the covenant. You will be able to come and go throughout the timeline of the future, taking on physical form when it is appropriate, staying as energy when that is superior for you. Not only will heaven's door be open, each person will have access to the very treasures of God. Now, to a significant extent, This is the result of what is achieved through the collaboration of the taruw'ah, and there were three. But let us never lose sight of the fact that had Dowd not restored his relationship with Yahweh and fulfilled the spring Miqra'ey, the fall Miqra'ey would remain unfulfilled and forgotten. God could not return. Life would end. Therefore, to provide a more complete perspective on life and the universe, Ethan is pulling back the curtain. Currently, as physical beings, mortal men and women are temporary occupants of this little corner of creation. To reach beyond it, to transcend dimensions and beyond the three of which we are familiar, to leap beyond all of this, any of it, is by invitation only. Access to the spiritual realm occurs once we accept God's conditions and then demonstrate that we are worthy of the considerable upgrade which comes with additional responsibility, capability, and of course, opportunity. Without this step, we remain tabor, separated, tramon, banned. That's an incredibly important term. Most people aren't just tabor, separated from heaven, they're banned from it. And to be banned is even worse because that means you're going to a place of separation. Now, with heaven off limits, the earth becomes man's grave, does it not? The reason that there are treasures depicted in the north in that statement that I shared with you is that the overwhelming preponderance of Jews outside of Israel live north of Jerusalem and in Europe and North America. And the left hand is where we would find Yada. And while on the other hand, the south represents the right side, which is where Dowd is positioned. Tabor and Tramon were chosen because Ethan knows that the Israelites will be shattered and crushed in the centuries to come. But it is those who were Tabor, banned from their homeland, but remained Tramon, devoted to it, who will be among those singing for joy upon Dowd's triumphant return. A few tears will be shed as well. And in this regard, Taram's passage from Hebrew to Aramaic and Arabic would be particularly haunting because Jews were actually demonized under the label haram. Now, adding to the intrigue, Tabor is a high hill in Lower Galilee. It is the location of the battle that Deborah and Barak waged against the Canaanites. This is where in 55 CE also 10,000 Yehudim were slaughtered by the Romans. Countless more fell on the slopes in 66 CE when Vespasian was dispatched by Nero to subdue Yehudim. As for Tramon, this mountain is in the Golan along the Israeli, Syrian, and Lebanese border. It was the site of intense battles in the Six-Day War and also on the Yom Kippur War in 1973 against Muslims. Now it serves as an Israeli observation post to monitor Syrian and Lebanese jihadists. Particularly relevant, Tramon was incorporated into Arabic and is used to denigrate, ban, and to curse Jews throughout the ages. Our liberation would not come too soon, or would it be easily won? There would be three taruw'ah, one early on during the Exodus, one at the midpoint of the transition from the garden and back to the garden, one at the very end. And they would offer the full measure of devotion to rid the world of man's trash and There we find these men so enmeshed that it is not until Ethan has more fully established his case that one actually appears distinct from the other. It reads, to approach you, and Ethan is speaking to Yahweh, whom he knows quite well, to approach you and on your behalf. The taruw'ah, the strong arm, cultivating the harvest on behalf of the sacrificial lamb, with authority and influence, courage, character, and conviction. It's Gabry'el. That's something that is attributed both to Dode and to the Choder. The will to fight, the capacity to perform, doing what is required to accomplish anything that needs to be done, valiant, heroic, prominent, pervasive. It's, of course, the feminine of Gabor, a mighty warrior, a valiant soldier, and a capable defender, a courageous hero that is worth noting. The root, of course, is Gabar, which is a empowered man who prevails by fighting aggressively. One of the things I like about Gabora is that way too much is made of feminine and masculine entities as they relate to titles as to who they apply to. Gabar is strictly a masculine reference. It means man. And so Gabora is, by having the feminine ending on it, is being used as an adjective to explain a noun that has been used previously that would have been feminine in Hebrew, but describing the qualities of a man. And what typically happens when you go from Adam to Adamah, par, bull, to para, productive bull, is that, and Gabor to Gabry'el, is that it is more expansive. For example, you would add compassion to courage. You would add a sense of being valiant to heroic. The person is not just powerful, but they're persuasive. You're completing the concept of it. It's as if you were to look at the difference between a man by himself and a man with a woman that he loves, and she loves him in return, and they conceive children and raise them in a nurturing and protective, productive environment. They become much more than either of them are independently. And so man with woman is more than a man by himself. A man like Dode, who was really a wonderful example of somebody who integrated cerebral acumen with emotional passion, becomes really a study in Gabor becoming Gabora. Anyway, that's the term that was used here. Will be your confident and capable hand, your bold and robust, your resolute influence. This is Azaz, based on Oz. Raised up high and exalted at your right side. It says 89:13. So let me read the whole thing through, and then we'll consider some insights. So to approach you. So you want to come near Yahweh, and on your behalf, serving you. The taruw'ah, strong arm, cultivating the harvest for the sacrificial lamb, with authority and influence, courage, character, and conviction, will be your confident, capable hand, your bold, robust, and resolute influence, raised up high and exalted at your right side, for having been right about you. And it's also interesting here that before we just say, well, this has to be right side, it is based on Yam. It's Yamin. And therefore, it also means from the sea. So while both taruw'ah, the sacrificial lamb, and the one cultivating the harvest, are designated by God as Gabora, capable and courageous, Both are also said to be azaz, confident, powerful. Only one stands at Yahweh's Yamen, right side, and that would be Dod. So while Yada is the Zeroah who crushes Rahab, Dod is the one who enables our approach to God and who, by being his firstborn son, is positioned as the Almighty's right hand. By fulfilling Pesach, Matzah, and Bakudim, he demonstrated that he is worthy of this distinction, which I think, in fact, I know, the title Zeroah is vastly more important than the title Messiah, even Melech King, particularly pursuant to God and the interaction between men and God. So in this way, Ethan is further establishing his kinship with the king. They were both manifest as the strong arm of God, albeit serving at different times and occasions. In addition to fulfilling the fall Moedim, the final Zeroah would also reacquaint Yisrael with the merits and achievements of the most formidable Zeroah, Dod. And while this says that his Zeroah are powerful and strong men of resolute character, much of which they achieve and which they are, certainly, Yahweh facilitates this through his Ruach spirit so that it is a collaborative effort. Nobody does this on their own. And in this way, their unique personalities, even their attributes and their attitudes, still come to the fore, which helps to differentiate them somewhat, which is something God wants, while their love of Yah is consistent. This is particularly true during the fulfillment of the Miqra'ey. Now, this being known, at the moment, Dod was wrong about God. But when he was right, and he would be again, he was celebrated as the most sadak, correct, of all people who ever lived. Moreover, by fulfilling matzah, he removed our guilt and his own, absolving us of judgment. This reads, being correct and vindicating, regarding executing good judgment and justly resolving disputes, serve as the foundation of your throne. Loyalty, devotion, and love, favoritism, affection, generosity, and kindness, along with a steadfast commitment to the truth, reliability, and integrity, dependability. It's from Amon, enduring truth, and Aman, to support, confirm, and uphold that which is trustworthy and reliable, verifiable, and confirming that which is correct. Encounter those who enter your presence. Kadam, Paneh, Ata. Embrace those who come to meet you. Mizmor lyrics, Psalm 89:14. So up to this point, and with only one notable citation, Ethan has been talking to Yahweh, telling us what he knows to be true about God, about Dod, and about himself even. The lone exception is when he quoted Yahweh addressing his son. And so while God has created a throne for Dod, in this case, I think Ata, you, is addressing Yahweh's Kishe. Therefore, Ethan is reaffirming that God is loyal and loving, trustworthy and reliable to the very core of his being. These attributes are literally foundational to God's nature. Now, should you wonder why, Ethan continues to report on Yahweh's devotion and his integrity. I think the reasons are many. Having spent over 2 millennia with God in Shamaim, well, his testimony is that of an eyewitness, and therefore it's relevant. There aren't many people that you're going to be able to hear from that have come to know Yahweh and his natural environment for that period of time and then can convey it to us. Ethan is the ultimate witness to Yahweh's nature. He knows also that it is essential that Dode and we come to know Yah, to love him, and to rely upon him. Therefore, everything written in this song hinges on who God is. Ethan's testimony and ours when speaking of him is valid because Yahweh has demonstrated that he is trustworthy. This also means that when religious scriptures are contrary to what God has previously revealed, they are always wrong. It's my issue with the Talmud, the New Testament, and the Quran. As it pertains to Dode, it was essential that he accept this accounting of Yahweh, because he is the one through whom Yahweh would establish the covenant. His return to favor would put him on the path to becoming our Savior, while affirming his status as the chosen one, the promised one, who would serve as God's co-worker. None of that would matter, would it? If not for Yahweh's credibility. Otherwise, crucifixion is just a ghoulish event. A trip to hell is meaningless. So Nathan wasn't inserted into this moment in time to make these claims on his own initiative. And it is not Ha-Ezraki who will affirm that Dode is the Messiah, the Son of God, and the returning king, but Yahweh himself. Ethan is the conduit for divine revelation, and all of the essential affirmations are in Yahweh's voice, as we shall soon discover. Therefore, with this in mind, it is Yahweh who, Ha-Ezraki, is proclaiming to be Sadak, right, fair, moral, and vindicating. Now, one last thought before we move on to the next statement. Having been there, Heaven's Guide is revealing that as the covenant family enter God's presence, they're going to perceive, we will perceive Yahweh as Ethan has come to know him, and as he is presenting him, loyal, devoted, loving, affectionate, honest, fair, reliable. Those are comforting terms, aren't they? Particularly in a relationship. Ethan Ha-Ezraki obviously recognizes that he is far more than a delivery boy. And God is much more than just a king. Dode is far more than just a king. And so, while Yahweh's credibility is what matters most, God knows that mankind's perceptions of his integrity hinge to a significant extent on that of those speaking for him. Did you ever think that through? God knows that mankind's perceptions of his integrity hinge to a very significant extent on that of those speaking for him. This is why Yahweh was so condescending when denouncing Miriam's attempt to insert herself into the narrative and to talk over Moshe. It is why God stopped communicating with and through Dode after he lost credibility for the Bathsheba incident, and why it had to be restored for two-way communication to resume. Even today, Yahweh's credibility is essential to, particularly at this last date, this late date. So God has overtly condemned, going to dispatch into Sheol, those who have tried to erode it. It's the only rational answer. Ethan recognized that the king would be more attuned to this message if he knew that he was listening to a peer rather than to one of the many subjects Dowd was currently ignoring. And so, after speaking of himself in the dedication, parts of the first and second verses citing Yahweh's endorsement of Dowd in the third and fourth stanzas, and revealing what he knows to be true about Yahweh in the first, second, fifth, and sixth through ninth verses, Ethan inserted something of himself again when he spoke of Dowd in the ninth and 10th statements. Thereafter, he directed our attention back to God in the 11th, 12th, and 14th refrains. It was in the 13th verse that Ethan returned to speak of the king prior to injecting something pertinent regarding himself in this next stanza. It reads, "Delighted to show the way, because blessed, Ashri, are the people who are aware of and respect Yada's acknowledgement. Yada, who are familiar and acquainted with, who learn about and make known, who comprehend and understand Yada's revelations. It was written in the call. Interpret this literally. Participle. It's both a noun and it's actionable. Masculine plural. Why? Because there's many aspects of this. Be aware, respect Yada, acknowledge what he has to say regarding taruw'ah, heralding, trumpeting, contributing, and conveying the message. Basis of the fifth and fifth of the seventh Miqra'ey, the final gleaning of Yisrael, who walk into the light of your presence, Yahweh. This is Mizmor Psalm 89:15. Take that from the beginning again. Ashri. Ashri is the personalization of Asher. So, yes, Asher is one of those terms. That's why I thought it was so interesting that there is a group out there that thinks Baal is bad, bad, bad. But Asher, they didn't want to touch because, when the prophets of Asherah are assailed by Eliah, he is also assailing the prophets of Baal. He's not saying that Asherah or Baal are derogatory terms. He said that those who are making religious pronouncements regarding them are bad. And here we have another affirmation that Asher is a marvelous term. This is Asher with a yod added to it. Delighted to show the way because blessed. Happy to reveal the proper path to the relationship, to be treated favorably. It's from Asher, enjoying the benefits of the relationship by having been shown the steps to walk to get the most out of life. And Annie, me. So representing the first word, I translated in 2 Samuel 7. If it wasn't for Asher, we wouldn't be here. So delighted to show the way because blessed are the people, are the family members who are aware of and respect Yada's acknowledgement of taruw'ah, of heralding, of trumpets, of contributing by conveying the message, who walk into the light of your presence, Yahweh. No, Asher, as I have said, presented here as Ashri, is essential to the bonding between Ethan and Dowd. It is the first word written exactly this way that the king wrote in the first Mizmor. And it is the first word I translated, doing so in one of the most famous prophecies regarding Dowd in 2 Samuel 7. It speaks of the path to the covenant and the blessings associated with it, but it's a relational term, bringing us together. Unlike the initial use of Yadal, this was written in the participle, I should say, of Yada. My computers are not playing nicely with one another as it relates to the superscript. And so in this case, it was the superscript of the Ain that became a capital I. Who knows how that happened? But it nonetheless did. We're trying to go back and add these superscripts so that you know. For example, Yada. Would you expect it to have an Aleph, which shows the ram, the ox, and leadership, protection, as the closing sound, making that A sound? Or would you expect Yada to have the I, which shows perceptions and the ability to perceive what is happening around you? When the word means to know, to perceive, to understand. Okay, I cheated. I told you the answer, didn't I? And so that's one of the advantages of doing these superscripts, is that when you see that Yada, for example, is written with a Yod, a Daleth, and with the Ain, you know that it is the hand that opens the door to being observant. So it's helpful to know that's the case. Now, if I could just get the word to do what it's supposed to do, which is when you embed a font, it's supposed to properly present it, but it just wouldn't do it here. So unlike the first time that Yada appeared in this Mizmor, I was very frank and said it was written in the imperfect, but not the as it was here, the participle. This was written in the participle form. And that means that it declaring that at this moment, there will be those who are aware of and will respect Yada. It is actionable in describing Yada. They're acknowledging Yahweh's role and taruw'ah as he purges the final remnant of Yisrael. And the fact that taruw'ah and Yada are juxtaposed, to be familiar with and respect, to be aware of Yada's role in taruw'ah, that's pretty tough to argue with, isn't it? At this point, Ethan has disclosed that in his next life, he will be, well, probably not his next one. He'll have a couple of visits between this one and that one. But in his last, when he serves as the Roa that takes down Rahab, he will be known as Yada. That's what he's saying. And that Yada's most important day will be taruw'ah. The day he purges the final remnant of Yisrael of their guilt, such that they are prepared for the return of Yahweh and Dowd. So in this way, they will be able to walk into the very light of Yahweh's presence. Therefore, Ethan is saying that a time will come when he, as Yada, will fulfill taruw'ah, just as Dowd would enable the promises of Pesach, Matzah, and Bikurim. The king's sacrifice would not be in vain because of what will be accomplished 20 centuries thereafter. And Ethan knows this to be true, because in heaven, he would have been able to witness the future and report back to us what he had seen. We've passed the hour, and so I'm going to leave this next statement for our next program. I think that is a wonderful place for us to end, for us to Salah, pause now. and contemplate the implications of what Ethan just revealed as to how he was working with Yahweh at this moment to resolve the issues that separated God from his beloved son, Dowd, and that he would return his yada, and that on taruw'ah would perform in such a way that it allows the children of Israel to approach the very light of God. Tells you that our interpretations of what God is conveying here are accurate, powerful, important. So I thank you for listening. I apologize for my rant on social media. I'm exceedingly frustrated by the gross impropriety of it all. And I am thrilled with the development of the website and what it now offers us. And I'm so looking forward to developing it so that it can offer everything that we find on social media, but so much more, and without the constant frustration. Nothing could be better. And I think of, where we were for 24 of the 25 years, most of that time, all we had was a website, no interaction at all. So we had a website. Then for maybe 10 years, we had a website and a audio vlog, crude audio vlog. And now we have so much more. And we have so much more only using a platform to stream these Yahweh vlogs that you can interact on and then become part of the record, and they're integrated into the Yada Yah site. So I think we have more than what needs to be offered in cutting back and constraining some of the activity, particularly as we pull back from those places where we're clearly not wanted. So anyway, that's my thoughts. I welcome your insights. Please share them with me. And thank you again for listening. You have a wonderful evening. May God bless.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch Yao on our next podcast.